Should nothing of our efforts stand, no legacy survive, unless the Lord does raise the house in vain, its builders strive. To you who boast tomorrow's gain, tell me, what is your life? A mist that vanishes at dawn, all glory be to Christ.
Thank you for listening to today's edition of the Open Bible Podcast. My name is Ethan Jones, and today I will be your host. Today is the 14th edition of our daily devotional series through the Proverbs for this month of January. As with all other episodes of this podcast, our hope is that this series would serve to the edification of our community of believers in Ponoka, as well as anyone beyond who might be listening. So wherever you are today, I want to welcome you. My prayer is that today's devotion will truly be an encouragement for you in your walk with the Lord. Today's passage for consideration comes from Proverbs 14. It reads, "The wisest woman builds her house, but folly with her hands tears it down. Whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his ways despises him. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod for his back, but the lips of the wise will preserve him. Where there is no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by strength of the ox. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness breathes out lies. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for a man of understanding. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving. Fools mock at the guilt of offering, but the upright enjoy acceptance. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. There's a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. Even in laughter the heart may ache, and at the end of joy may be grief. The backslider in the heart will be filled with the fruit of his ways, and a good man will be filled with the fruit of his ways. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. One who is wise is cautious and turns his way from evil. But a fool is reckless and careless. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devices is hatred. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow down before the good, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is disliked even by his neighbor, but the rich has many friends. Whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. Do they not go astray who despise evil? Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. A truthfulness saves lives, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. In the fear of the Lord one has strong confidence, and his children will have refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. In a multitude of people is the glory of a king, but without people a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Whoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is generous to the needy honors him. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in his death. Wisdom rests in the heart of the man of understanding, but it makes itself known even in the midst of fools. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. A servant who deals wisely has a king's favor, but his wrath falls on the one who acts shamefully. Now, I think for most of us, unless we are that friend, have had people come into our lives who seem to live for negativity or for complaining. Rather than take responsibility for negative seasons in their lives, they make it someone else's fault. These people often struggle to get ahead, and instead of pushing through, they throw their hands up and blame the system that is working against them. There are many people in our world like this. And this is something I think a lot of us, if we are honest, can wrestle with. I know, at least for myself, I can struggle with the urge in my life to complain and live for myself. But if we are to thrive, if we are to actually experience true abundant life, it means killing that spirit. Solomon in this passage writes, "There's a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way to death. Even in laughter, the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief." So Solomon is calling us to give up that way of life which seems so right to us, and yet leads to death and grief. Namely, the mentality of seeking our own interests, despising our neighbor, as verse 21 says, acting out of a quick temper, and pride, as verse 17 says. All such things expressed in this passage, whether it be a quick temper, failing to care for one's neighbor, failing to care for the poor, it all comes down to a place of pride. And it must be avoided, not only in one's own personal life, but we are told that we must not even surround ourselves with such people. We are told here specifically, leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet the words of knowledge. Now we must understand this does not mean that we should not speak at all with a fool. It doesn't say don't share the truth with the fool, don't evangelize to the fool. But this does mean that our inner circle, our closest friends, that should not be made of people who are only going to bring you down, people who are foolish in their ways, in the way they live. These people you hold dearest to you should be building you up and encouraging you to live a life of holiness which honors God. This means we should be pruning our groups of peers. Again, not as to cut them off entirely, but as to not bring yourselves down, not to pull yourself into unholiness. We are told as well throughout this chapter that we are to work well. Verse 23 says that in all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. Again, as I said earlier, we cannot expect for things to go well for us if we do not push for it. You can only plan so much, and then you need to execute. I have people in my life who have struggled to get by, but they quit job after job because they cannot decide what they want to do with their life. At some point, though, if they're ever going to make it, they simply need to pick something and stick with it for an extended period of time. There's profit when you actually work. When you actually work, that's when you make something. But that does not come if we only talk and speculate about the work. And this is the kind of work ethic that follows if you're truly seeking to do all things unto the Lord. And this is where Proverbs 14 explains most of the issues facing our society. Those who do not live out any kind of biblical wisdom, which works quietly, loves neighbor, cares for the poor, and seeks the well-being of others, such people who don't seek those things are God haters. Whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his way despises him, as verse 2 says. So then the root of evil in the world is not only because they love what is wrong, it's because they hate what is right. They hate God. And in their hatred of God, they refuse to obey what is good and in their best interest, leading to their demise as a result. People who hate God and the things of God do not desire to obey God either. So they will often try and drag down those who seek to obey God with them. This is why this passage calls us to avoid such people. Put to death the flesh with its practices and take no part in the works of darkness. That's the call that we get from the Lord. So as you seek the Lord today, seek to live in obedience, in peace, and rid yourself of anything in your life that will inhibit you from that goal. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. A servant who deals wisely has the king's favor, but his wrath falls on the one who acts shamefully. Seek to live wisely in holiness as a response to the favor shown by God to you. We have been saved by grace, so respond to that grace not in sloth or selfish living, but through self-giving, because those who can be trusted with little will be trusted with much. Blessings on you all today.